Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ba'd. This is lesson number 78 from the explanation of Bulugh Al-Maram, and inshallah today we're going to continue on from the bab of Tayammum, from Kitab al-Tahara. Now inshallah from now on, for the rest of this lesson, all the way up inshallah to the end of the book, I'll be using the Arabic Dar es-Salam print. Because I know a lot of the people that might be listening, they probably, if anybody's using the English translation, they will probably be using the Dar es Salaam English translation because it's the most popular one. So the issue that I had is because anytime that you have 3, 4, 5 different copies of Bulugh Al-Maram, you'll notice that the numbering is always kind of different. And that's because obviously Hafiz ibn Hajar, he brings like little snippets of different ahadith. And some people, they will count them as a hadith, and some people will count them with the previous hadith as one hadith, and so on and so forth. So this causes like a difference as far as the numbering is concerned. So whenever I post now, inshallah, whenever I post the number of hadith, I will actually post the number of the hadith number that I'm reading from. I'm posting it based on the Arabic Dar es Salaam, not on the English translation. I'm just hoping that the English translation agrees, the numbering agrees, because obviously they're both Dar es Salaam. But Allahu A'lam, because whoever might have been responsible for doing the Arabic might not have been responsible for the English, the English part. So I don't know. But that's what I'll be utilizing. I'll be utilizing the number. So when I say that this is the hadith number, like today, we're going to be doing hadith number 100. It's going to be 129, 130. All right, which is the hadith of Abi Hurairah. So they consider this two hadiths because, again, like I said, the snippet part thing. So yeah, so that solves that. So inshallah, there will be no more issues. At least, I mean, that's just so that's clear with the understanding. And also, anybody that is following along from an Arabic copy, just to let you know that I'm going to be using the Dar es Salaam one, the Dar es Salaam one. All right, so inshallah. So the hadith today is an Abi Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu. قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الصعيد وضوء المؤمن المسلم وإن لم يجد الماء 10 سنين فإذا وجد الماء فليتق الله وليمسه بشرته. ورواه البزار وصححه ابن القطان ولكن صوب دارقطني إرساله وللترمذي عن أبي ذر نحو وصححه والحاكم أيضا. Alright, so this hadith, the final hukum of it would be Hasan li. The hadith is Hasan, and the meaning is definitely Sahih. Because as we see that Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu, he reported that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, As-Sa'id. And As-Sa'id, as we spoke about before, is when you hit and you take from the surface of the dirt. Because you're taking from the surface. You're not digging, and you don't have to dig and get deep into the dirt, but you strike the surface of the dirt. So as-sa'idu wudu'ul mu'mini wal muslimi. So it takes the place of wudu' for the mu'min and the Muslim. وَإِن لَمْ يَجِدِ الْمَاءَ 10 سِنِينَ. Even if he doesn't find water for 10 years. And this is reality, that there's no limitations. As long as the conditions last that cause you to have to make tayammum, and then as long as those conditions last, and then you can continue to make tayammum. And it's not even, so the people understand, it's not that you don't find water at all. Because in certain places you might find some water, but it's only enough to be used as like drinking water or water for cooking, but there's no extra water for other things. So in this case, the water has to be utilized for drinking and cooking, and it can't be used for anything else. So in this case, the tayammum still applies because the amount of water that's found is very, very, very little. And if the people were all to use it for wudu, then they wouldn't have anything to drink. They wouldn't have any drinking water or anything to cook their food with. So in this case, it still applies. And as long as those conditions apply, then the person's rukhsa or his permission to do a tayammum in place of wudu still applies. So he said, when lam yajid al-ma' 10 سنين, فإذا وجد الماء, but once he finds water that he can make wudu with, he said, فَلْيَتَّقِ اللَّهَ, And of course, this means to, generally, again, as we constantly talk about, they translated it as and let them fear Allah. But it means to obey the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and stay away from His prohibitions. And this is setting up a protection between you and the hellfire and the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you do this. So فَلْيَتَّقِ اللَّهَ وَلْيَمِسَّهُ بَشَرَتَهُ. Alright, so the verb فَلْيَمِسَّهُ, it comes from massa, but here is amassa, which means it causes to cause something to touch. فَمَسَّ يَمَسُّ, it means to touch. But amassa yumissu, it means to cause something to touch. So he said فَلْيَمِسَّهُ, and of course because this takes the form of an amr. Alright, and because it has because it's a shadda on the scene, because there's two scenes. The asl of it is masasa. Alright, but masasa, so instead of saying فَلْيُمْسِسْهُ, it becomes فَلْيُمِسَّهُ. So it takes a fatha instead of a sukoon because it's actually two letters. So if it was a فَلْيُمْسِس, then it would take a sukoon. فَلْيُمِسَّهُ بَشَرَتَهُ, and basharatuhu is the surface of the skin. The surface of the skin, just like the sa'id is the surface of the dirt, the basharah is the surface of the skin. So he should take that water and allow that water to touch the surface of his skin, which means he should make wudhu once he finds the necessary, once that rukhsa is no longer applicable for him. And that is not just for the wudu, that's also for the ghusl, if the ghusl is necessary, because as we know that the tayammum also takes the place of the ghusl. So alhamdulillah, this hadith is very clear as far as the length of time, that there's no limit to how long the person can continue to make tayammum. It is as long as that person's issue persists. If the person has some type of skin condition where they're not able to, put water on their skin for whatever reason, I don't know what type of conditions, because I'm not a doctor. So any doctor could probably benefit us with that type of information. But there are no doubt conditions, burn victim or whatever the case may be. If the person has been burned up in a fire, like really severely, obviously, the person can't just hop in the shower or make wudu. So for as long as that condition persists with that person, then that person is allowed to make wudu make tayammum, as a replacement for wudu, and as well as a replacement for the ghusl. And there's no time limit. The limit is based on how long that issue persists. And if it stops and then it starts again, then the person will continue to do tayammum if that condition comes back. All right, and as we already spoke about before, is that obviously even with the tayammum, the same issues apply to it as applies to wudu. So the same thing that the same issues that cause the wudu to become invalid, they also make the tayammum to become invalid. So if a person were to go to use the restroom for either one or number one or number two, or pass gas, or had sexual relations with his family, and in this case, all of these things would necessitate the person to renew the tayammum. Obviously, this being that the water is not available for him to make wudu or make a ghusl. So so as long as that issue persists, then his ability or his rukhsa, his permission to continue to do tayammum, will also persist. Wallahu a'lam. Wa ila huna subhanaka wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.